Boston Art Podcast, calling up
Joe Palana.
All right. So we're going to have to put the phones together, remember?
Yeah.
You want to
yeah. Got it.
Turn the phones on speaker?
I think so.
You want to hold it?
Is my volume up?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going? And we're recording right now.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, I get to talk to you too.
It's been a minute.
It's been like a whole pandemic.
One big
Oh my
old
God! Sorry,
pandemic.
hold on, my reception is weird in the new apartment. But hi.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Awesome.
All right. Oh, wait, maybe, hold on. You might not be actually.
Uh-oh.
What about now?
That's better, I think. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, I think we're good.
Great. So you guys used to know each other from...
From the MFA.
Yeah, the Museum of Fine Arts.
And I don't know if you remember, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing you around at Rockland Public Schools.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that we had ever met.
Your
yet.
sister was in my grade.
That's what I thought. I thought that was the case.
Yeah, and I remember, maybe this is weird, but I always remembered your art being unusually good in the hallway.
Oh, wow. That's so cool, actually. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember my art being very good back then, but I appreciate it.
At least compared to other high schoolers.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure it's only better now, but I just remember it being like, oh, wow, this is way better than the other, children.
Right. Yeah, look at that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you made an impression. And I think, were you friends with Kara and Brittany? I feel like, no shit, but all the scene kids.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, were you a scene kid?
Yeah. I feel like I predated Scene a little bit. It was
That's
more
cool.
emo at the time, and then Scene seemed to be 2012 and 13 and 14. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's stupid.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I was Scene adjacent because I was too round and blonde, really.
Right.
But I was friends with them.
Yeah. That'd be the way it'd be.
Oh, man.
So, what is it that you do? Why are we talking to you?
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
I guess, art related, I do stand-up comedy.
That's awesome. That's one type of performance that I have never ever treaded even close to.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've only done music stuff or speaking, but comedy I have always admired as a really terrifying and unforgiving medium.
Yeah, it is. It is the only, I feel performance where people are really comfortable yelling their negative feedback at you.
That's definitely true. Definitely not as socially acceptable with music.
No, and it probably just shouldn't be socially acceptable at all. But
Right.
Oh, man.
it is I think because with music, people know that they can't do that.
Yeah.
But with comedy, they can tell themselves, "Oh, I could be better at this," because it's visually easy.
Yeah.
Just from looking at it. But I don't think it actually is easy. Whereas with music, they know that they can't just get up on stage and do that.
See, I feel like I do not think I could do stand-up comedy. I think I would have a
Right.
panic attack before I even got on the stage.
I think that's because you're a normal nice person. You're not a drunk 40-year-old man at a bar.
That's true. Let's hope I never am.
Right.
I'm rooting for you.
So what kind of what is your I guess I'm trying to say what does that discipline look like for you? I guess, are you doing a lot of writing, or I don't know, are you sitting down with a pen and pad and writing jokes?
Yeah, so I do. I probably should do more. I think there is something to be said about physically writing stuff. I did that when I started, and then I lost my notebook. Well, it was stolen. It wasn't. I didn't lose it, but so I've been a using my notes app writer. So I do try to write at least one new joke a day, and then that way, even if it's like a shitty joke I never use, I'm just keeping my brain like ready and like active in like the joke department.
That makes sense. Keeping things fresh. That's cool. What is what is your act? Do you have some like themes that you center your act around for the most part, or do you have like a range of stuff that you talk about?
Yeah, I think right now I've gotten a lot more storytelling focus, because I think that's at least there's something to be said about like at least that's original, since it's things that happen to you, whereas like you tried to do like political things, like at least I feel like it's hard to have a new take.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm telling stories, and like I try, it'd be nice, like the main goal is to be funny, but then you do like also it's nice if you can have like a bigger theme, and so I do think if there's a theme through my stuff, I do try to like deconstruct like masculinity. Like I very much am like not a masculine man, and I want to be like almost like very like open about that and like deconstruct, because I think it's a very silly construct. It's there's not a lot that like as like a white dude that you have to offer other than like rebelling against other like worse white dudes. So that's what I try to do, is to at least try to tell stories that are funny. First off, funny, and then if they can be like a little bit more like, hey, you don't have to be the way a lot of people tell you. You have to be it. You can be okay with that, and that's a good thing. I think if I can do that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't get to be the judge of if it works or not.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Do you feel like doing an act like that? Because when you're saying that, I feel like a lot of the audiences for comedy shows maybe. I mean, I'm not putting these words in your mouth, but like from my own perspective, it seems like they can be harder crowds to deal with. Like, do you think it's hard to connect with people through comedy, or like, do you think that's different than other mediums, maybe?
I think that is like, I think it is a hard thing. I think that's like kind of almost why like your first few jokes, that's their job, is like you have to establish some kind of like trust with the room first before like you can really make them laugh. You have to establish like, oh, why should you even listen to me?
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, a mistake a lot of like newer comics do, is they go right into their jokes, and like if you're famous, then that's great. Like you should do that. Like, it is better to just tell more good jokes. But I think when you're not like famous or even close, then like a lot of times the room might just not even want to, like, you need to just kind of show them that they should listen first, then you can. So I always like, maybe there's better ways to do it, but I always like start self-deprecating, because it's like if I make the joke they're all thinking about against me first, then I'm like, that's like one way of getting trust. Like, oh, no, I know what you're thinking. I'm not a 12-year-old boy. I know what I look like. Like, I always start with that, and then it's like kind of like, oh, okay, he's at least comfortable shitting on himself first, and not like us. So it's like there's like a degree of trust that can build.
Why do you... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, but you definitely are right in that, like, you do have to do something like that, at least starting out, to just get them on your side first, and then you can actually tell jokes that...
Yeah. That makes sense, like establishing yourself as an entity before you start just making it a question of whether or not they think you're funny.
Yeah.
Like garnering maybe some kind feelings.
Sure, yeah. And how did you find yourself being attracted to comedy in general? Like, why did, like, in your early years, like, what the hell brought you to be doing this?
Oh, yeah. I think for me is like just like an awkward guy. It was always how I connected with people around me. Like, if you don't have a lot of other things going for you. You could just you just end up trying to make people laugh. And I think there's definitely a big, like, youngest sibling thing. I don't know if where you guys follow the sibling.
I am a younger sibling, but not the youngest.
I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
All right, so I think, well, I'm not only the youngest, but I'm the youngest by, like, a lot. Like, I was very much a late game surprise.
Gotcha.
For my parents. So I think having, like, much older siblings, there was always, like, I wasn't, like, maybe my siblings were 7 and 10 years older than me, so I wasn't, like, smart enough to keep up with the conversation just because of age.
Yeah.
But
right.
if I could do something funny, I'd get to, like, still kind of be at the table, you know?
Interesting.
So I think it was very much that was a big factor. Just, like, it was really my first way in to any social interaction. And then I was very scared of the performing aspect. I wasn't good at, like, acting or singing or any other kind of performance thing, so I was mostly, like, writing for a lot of my, like, awkward teen years. Like, I still, like, cared about, like, comedy, but I just didn't think I'd be, like, a performer. And then, like, people in college just kept bugging me to do it because they were nice and they saw something I didn't in myself. And I was very bad at first, but once you get, like, one laugh, it's like, it is very, like, addicting.
Yeah.
So
And I guess what I find so like to even ask the question, like, what the hell would make you want to do that? And I guess what I mean by that too is that, like, when you're starting out maybe as a painter or something or drawing and you're not that good, or you can just kind of lean into abstraction or
this is my style,
or being very expressive, or like, and there's room for that and people like that regardless, and it's cool stuff. But when you're just starting out performing for the first time with comedy, it seems like these people just are eating shit and, like, having the worst fucking, like, a traumatic experience.
The audience just tries to kill you.
Yeah, like the beginning is, like, terrible. It seems.
My very first open mic, I did so badly, I didn't do it again for 2 years.
Oh.
That's awesome. Can you tell us about that night? Like, what kind of material did you use?
Well, so I think so the performance aspect, like, I started doing improv my freshman year of college, and so I thought I could also just improvise my way through a stand-up set. So I just went up with nothing prepared, which was cocky and clearly ended up being false. And I just did. What did I did bad one-liners.
Well, that's pretty brave, though.
Was it at, like, a bar?
Of, like, young, like, 20-year-olds or, like, younger than that start with one-liners because it's like we don't have any life experience.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think that was it. What was it? This is the one I think is the closest to salvageable, maybe, but it's still bad. But I do remember doing and, like, it was also, like, I didn't know that you're supposed to get to the open mic early to sign up, so I got there right when it started, and so I went up at, like, 1 a.m. 20 years old, bad at comedy, that I did, like, this was the one line I remember was, I want to start an Irish reggae band called the Great Potato Jammin'.
Oh, no.
I know. I think if you know that that's stupid, you can maybe make it work. But I did that with, like, no sense of irony. Which is awful. I deserved to fail. Like, I did.
What kind of response was it? Was it just silence, or was it just, like, were people, was nobody even looking you in the eye?
Yeah.
Everyone just wanted to disappear.
Was, like, one guy was just being super nice, was just like, yeah, that's something. Like, and I'm like, oh, yeah, so I guess I really, like, he was just, I remember that distinctly. There was one guy who was just very nice, but it was clear that he didn't actually enjoy it. He just didn't want me to, like, go and kill myself.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like, you felt like he was like cheering like as a hero. Like
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no.
So after you like experienced this like dark night of the soul at this open mic, like where like what like during that 2 years made you want to try that again?
You know, again, like I said, like I was not confident in the performing aspect. Like I was not good at it. But I did keep writing a lot. Like I did sketch comedy, and then a buddy. There was a college stand-up group, and so I would just go to the meetings, and I would like help other comedians like come up with punchlines, and then I would see things that I'd like come up with do well, and I'm like, okay. So I guess like there's something here. I'm not. I have some basic affinity towards like art form, like that I'm not horrible at. So it's just like a matter of biting the bullet and figuring out like the actually performing aspect of it. But it took a while. Like I knew that I could write things that were funny-ish. Like I knew I at least had that. And then it was a matter of like figuring out like how to translate that to me telling them on a stage.
Yeah.
Right, because I feel like I don't like with music specifically. I feel like there's something a lot of people do in the beginning of their performance experience where they're not necessarily trying to blow everybody away or be the best, but they're trying to almost look like they've done it before. Like they're like people trying to blend in as not a beginner. You know what I mean?
There's definitely that for comedy. That's a really accurate like of just like I just want to not suck at the beginning, and like they'll just take that like, oh, something worked. It wasn't all bad. I wasn't the best, but I wasn't the worst. Like those first few times of that mean a lot when you start to go.
Right, yeah, like and like it's really interesting too, because it seems like a massive part of it is like, because I don't know, man, you see that so much with like music too, where people can write really great material, but on stage it isn't really like you're just not like buying it, I guess.
Yeah, that's really spot on.
Right, so it's kind of like it's really a lot of it is just confidence. It seems like, and almost like social reckless abandon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
that being said, I think you could pull that off a little better with music.
Oh,
like,
right.
Feel confident. I think with comedy, there's something to be said about that. That like just being confident can get you pretty far. But if you have really nothing in terms of material, or actually nothing plus confidence might work. But if you have really like offensively bad material and confidence, that's almost like a great way to just burn the room. If you just are like confidently like misogynist or like, because that's like you're like, oh, this is like an aggressively cruel person.
Right, it's not like you're just bad, you're also like a jerk.
Yeah. Which, like, I guess, I'm sure you have seen that in music, but I think in general, it's weird to write, like, a whole song about just being an asshole. I don't know, maybe, like, just 5 minutes straight of, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, to think about, like, content-wise, comedy being, like, it's all first-person monologue for the most part. Like, you cannot separate that from the way that you see stuff or the way you want people to think that you see stuff anyway.
Like, yeah. Like, if you don't have, like, I think that's what a lot of new people don't get. That, like, they see comedians that say offensive things and are good at it, but they those comedians that are, like, it's very subjective, but the comedians that are generally thought of as good that do that, they have a distinct voice. They have a character. Like, it all works within the realm of what they're putting on stage.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just like some guy in a bar, it just sounds like things you think. And that can be really bad.
Oh man, yeah, that makes sense. It seems
Like,
like it's a
I
pretty.
do think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I do think that like a lot of not great comedians will like do something offensive and then like blame the audience, which is I don't know. I don't know. Is there like an equivalent of that in music where someone's just like has no self-awareness, like they just do a terrible thing and then go, "You guys are wrong for not liking that."
Well, what is like a really common thing with music that you see a lot, especially if it's like, I mean really any genre, but what you like this like anybody who goes to local shows has seen this happen at least one time, but some guy basically will go on stage and be like, "This song's about my like ex-girlfriend, like she's a fucking awful person, like I hope she fucking dies," and then like sing some awful song that's like basically about being like I don't know, like that kind of thing happens a lot, and you're like, man, like you, like we all know what type of person you are, and it's really embarrassing and awkward, and this is terrible, and we don't like this. But so it isn't really so much that someone's like, "Yeah, I'm the guy that says whatever I want. Like I'm the guy. Are you triggered?" Like you don't really see that like with an acoustic performance, but you just see somebody
That'd be a fucking crazy
that is like
performance.
that is like not self-aware and being like horrible.
I think that would be so funny. Hey, snowflakes, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm here to say what's really happening. And then they just go like, "Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man." Like, okay, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you really will say anything.
Yeah, fuck. Snowflakes hate Mr. Tambourine Man.
Interesting. Now you're like going to like local comedy things or like more regional like shit like that, like at open mics and stuff. Do you see a lot of those like the like anti-snowflake guys? Are they as common as they are online in just a random space like that?
Yeah, they're. I will say. I mean, I'm sure it changes. Depending on where you are, there's always like one. I think there's
Right.
like almost always at least one. Depending, there is like certain, like I mean, that's a cool thing about I think right now that hasn't always been true is that there are a lot of spaces that are pretty clearly not cool with that. So I think that's great that there's a lot more like queer or women run, like even just open mics, let alone, and then also shows, which is great. So it's not so much gatekeeping as just like self-selection, like that guy's not going to go to that mic, you know?
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's great that there are these spaces. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I have some food that just arrived today. I'll be like 2 seconds. I'm on the second floor, so it'll be really fast. I'm so sorry.
No,
yeah,
you're
no
okay.
problem.
It's all good.
Oh yeah, now you guys know what floor I'm on. Oh god.
Oh no.
Oh jeez, yeah, that's funny.
All right. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Sorry.
Oh man.
Did he set his phone down?
I think so.
Oh, okay. He'll be back in a minute. How's it going, Theo?
It's going good. I have things I want to say, but I don't want to say them.
Oh yeah, we'll wait. Yeah, it's interesting to discuss comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about, like, because we talked recently to someone who is a magician, which is another kind of performance that I haven't really thought about, like, the experience of performing. Are you listening right now?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah. You know, it's something that we like still haven't done.
What?
Like maybe Trevor Sullivan, shout out Trevor, but we haven't interviewed somebody who's just like only discussing music like, well, no, that is what Trevor's interview was, like music and performing and writing music. So, but that's kind of interesting that Trevor is probably the only one.
That is true.
Except we did talk to Joel and Matt, who are primarily musicians.
We didn't talk about that.
Shout
very
out
much,
Black
though.
Market Therapy, but yeah, we didn't really discuss that as much as we.
I always like talking about performance as an art form because I don't do anything performance based. I've done a little bit of improv, but I didn't perform. I just did it for fun.
Right.
So thinking about using like the person and your own voice and writing in front of an audience and like the adrenaline of like the possible like crash fail outcome is a pretty interesting thing to me. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to do it too.
True. True facts.
True facts.
Yeah.
Hey Brian.
What up?
If you were a zoo animal, what would you be? Not an animal with freedom. The zoo animal specifically.
I'd rather be dead than locked in a cage.
Oh my god.
No, maybe I would be the squirrel that is trespassing in an outdoor zoo.
That's a meme. I've seen that on TikTok.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You showed it to me.
Oh, I must have subconsciously ripped that off. Shit.
Hi, sorry about that.
It's
Hello.
okay.
I'm back.
Where'd you get food from?
A Jamaican chicken restaurant.
Nice.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm in like a Caribbean neighborhood, which is, I mean, Brian can tell you from growing up in Rockland, it's awesome to have like flavorful food.
Right, instead of just like D'Angelo's or something.
Yeah.
Or McDonald's.
Yeah, this is nice. This is a nice change of pace.
I've never had Jamaican food, I don't think.
Oh, I would recommend it. Yeah.
That sounds
Big
awesome. So what were we just talking about something specific? I don't even remember.
Just like those dudes that like
Oh, yeah.
Right.
how common it is. And I think it's, yeah, like even in like a pretty liberal city like Boston, you get those guys. Because no one wants to think they suck, you know?
Right.
So they all like blame something else. And so I think PC quote-unquote culture has become the easy thing to blame. But
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's really just that person wasn't very...
Yeah.
Wasn't very funny.
Yeah, I do think like there's like every once in a while you'll encounter a crowd that really is like just too closed off or like not willing to give any benefit of the doubt. But I don't think it's as common as people think it is or worry about.
That's kind of encouraging, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like with like a tougher room, like with any kind of performance, especially at open mics, I feel like rather than a show, I've noticed in a lot of places sometimes there will be a kind of air of suspicion just in the audience for everybody that goes up, where everybody, unless they're like a known person, like the audience is just kind of like, oh, fucking look at this dude, like this is going to be awful, and then people kind of commit to not liking it.
Yeah.
Something before it happens. So
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that. Like I've seen some music shows where somebody put a comedian in between bands.
Oh, that's tough.
Have you done that before?
I've done open mics that are like that. I've never done like a professional show. Oh, I don't think you should.
So you like signed up at an open mic that was almost exclusively like musicians and songwriters and shit?
Yeah, I've done that.
What is that like?
It's, it's really like 50-50. Sometimes people like really like they are just there to support like local arts and they're like really into seeing something different.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have like an evening where they can kind of half listen to some like mostly pleasant music, and then like comedy, it's like you're being asked to listen the whole time. Like you can't just like be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna kind of listen to like a nice melody.
Mm.
You can't half listen to comedy, and I think like you can kind of do that with. I mean, I don't want to like obviously it's not how music like maybe should quote unquote be listened to, but like people can not have a bad night out, but I think they don't like having to be quiet for a comedy thing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Interesting. So what other kind of shit are you doing besides comedy, just like in your day-to-day? Are you only writing and performing, or is there any other shit you got going on?
Yeah, so my job is like totally unrelated. I like work with kids with needs. So that's a big chunk of my day.
Did you say what was it? What was your job?
Oh, I work with like kids with special needs, so like that's just not totally related to performing, but I like it. I care about it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I've been writing this like travel blog for embarrassing. I'm a slow writer because when I graduated college, I like a fellowship. Like I applied for this fellowship. I didn't think. I just pitched the most ridiculous thing, which was that I would go to all the 4 states, spend a week, and do comedy and write about it. And 48 being not Alaska and Hawaii, I know that there's 50. And so I did get funding to do that. So
wait, what exactly did you do? You were going to football games?
No, I was just going to open mics and comedy and like exploring the 48 states that are easy to drive to.
How the fuck? Wait, so you got to... I don't know where the fuck I heard football games. But I thought... So you... So it was some type of grant where you were traveling and doing comedy on inland... on like continental states?
Yeah.
That's
What
really
the
cool.
fuck? That sounds like a dream.
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't know why anyone gave me money to do it, but I wasn't going to say no. I just kept like moving along in the interview process, thinking like, okay, they're going to have to realize it's ridiculous now.
Well, where was the first place you went?
I started because it was all driving, so I think I started with New Hampshire because it was the easiest state to get to. So I did like a little loop of the Northeast, and then I made my way down the East Coast. I was kind of like racing the winter, so I like went south first, then I traveled across the southern state, up the Northwest, back.
Wow, that's so cool. Did you hit all of them already?
Yeah, I did this from 2017 to 2018.
Oh, wow.
And I've still, but it's just taken me forever to write about it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. I don't know how, it's kind of goofy, but that's something I'm still working on.
That's awesome. You must have had so many different experiences.
Yeah, I think that it definitely, like, was an education for sure, and definitely forced me to get better at comedy.
Were you traveling alone?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what kind of car?
Well, I started with a Toyota Scion, and then the brakes failed in Mississippi, and I hit a pickup truck, and everyone was okay, but the car was not. And so then I had to come back to Massachusetts, and the insurance payout for the total car was exactly enough to get a what did I get? I got a Nissan Versa. So then that made...
Love that.
Yeah, it was very convenient. I have a net neutral.
Right, yeah, just generally gained... Yeah, wow. So, and I'm curious, too. I'd love to talk more about the traveling, but what is your anticipated final version of your writing about this tour, essentially? Like, is it a book? Is it supposed to be?
Yeah, I would love to do like something where like I can encourage people to see all like the fun, weird things that they might not otherwise see, like the travel log. I think for my own sake, I just need to write down everything first so that I remember, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I like trim it down to something that maybe is like useful or fun or hopefully both. To, like because it's a lot of like weird art around the thing. I don't know. I could definitely go on and be annoying about this, but like, I think like there is everything that people like, good and bad. Like, I think everything that anyone says about America is true. It's just so big. It's not one place. So like, but the thing that I really loved is that everywhere, every state has cool, weird art and people trying to do the good, interesting things. And I think if you can find and support those people, like that was my favorite thing to see and do. And I think it really made me like a more, I don't know, like knowledgeable, well-rounded human. And I think that's the thing. Like when you like seek out things that are different, you learn things you wouldn't otherwise learn. And so I would love to be able to make something that helps people find those things and do them.
When you were doing this tour, like, did you notice a lot of differences in the like comedy scenes in different states, or like the things people were doing and like DIY scenes and stuff?
Yeah, you know, it was actually like there definitely were differences, for sure, but less than maybe I anticipated. There's definitely like I think the size of the scene made a big difference. Like just like if it was like a place where everybody's going to like this one mic to hopefully get on at that same comedy club, then, you know, maybe there's a little bit of bias. You only really see people's best material because that's their chance. But for the most part, like, yeah, I think there are subtle differences. Like, I think some states, or I guess I should well state, but like some scenes maybe gravitate more towards traditional storytelling or like set up punchline versus like some states be more okay with like experimental or like weird stuff, and that was fun. But I think it's mostly like that particular scene. It's not even like the region so much.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, yeah, like people are just trying to make sense of the weird world we live in. So, interestingly enough, you know what made a difference would be the number of, I guess the thing that maybe varied the most was like the number of women, people of color, and queer people, and queer people. I don't want to necessarily draw any lines between those groups, but I do think that varied a lot. And like the more concentrated white maleness there was in it would suffer from not having just more voices.
Yeah.
But in general, I think because most comedy happens in like big cities or college towns and cities across the country are not as different as the rest of the country. Like the country varies a lot, but like big city is basically a big city, and a college town is basically a college town wherever you go.
That's really interesting to think about, because I feel like a lot of people that live in the suburbs and have only lived in the suburbs, or that have for a long time, think about it like everything happens in the city. Like all the big stuff happens in the city. But it is true that like it seems like that's maybe things happen a little slower in the suburbs, but that's where small communities build up their own style of doing things.
In the suburbs?
Yeah, or country, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel I definitely agree with the idea that like every like it's like I was one time in a city in Arkansas called Fayetteville. And,
oh yeah, I liked Fayetteville. Okay, but talk to me.
Oh yeah, it's a nice place, but I thought it was interesting because I was just talking to just some random guy at a show, and he was talking about he'd never been to Boston or anything, but he was talking about, he's like, yeah man, like there's like a lot of like gentrification here, and the rent prices keep going up, and like man, like this, and like and then he was like, yeah man, it's so crazy, and I was like, yeah, it's literally like exactly the same as Boston. And the guy was like kind of like, whoa, like shit, like I thought it was just that horrible like that here. And I was like, no, it's actually exactly how it is here. Every city.
I think that's really indicative of my experience too. Like, yeah. People are just dealing. I think there are definitely big regional differences in like certain places, but for the most part, people are people wherever you go, right? Like they want to be able to like afford a place to live. They want to maybe enjoy some form of art. I think everyone has that, and like they want their to be like okay.
Yeah. Huh.
But Fayetteville was like weird. I don't know if you had that experience. I was like, oh, I was not like I thought it was like weirdly cool, at least in like the local art.
Yeah, that like I've traveled a lot in a lot of the southern states and some of the southwestern states, and like one thing that I always found so like I don't know, man, like it's just really like because I've been to some places and met random people who didn't know where Massachusetts was.
Oh yeah?
Or like shit like that, or like met people like, which is like kind of fucking crazy, man. Like it's in the Northeast, but but I guess just meeting people in random southern areas or urban areas in the South or like rural places, like it's just so, I don't fucking know, man. You know what? One thing it just made me realize is that there are so much more places that are like that than there are like the Northeast.
Yeah.
Like the Northeast is the odd place out, in my opinion. Like I feel like most of the country is like farmland and rural area and people that live like that. You know?
I think that's definitely a way bigger geographical chunk of the country at the very least. And
right.
Probably a bigger population overall.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think like we in the North, like I don't know, like people don't want to drive like an hour to go anywhere, and then like in some parts of the country, it's like that's where the next closest town is like an hour drive away. It's like we just don't really up here. We don't have a concept of how just spacious the country is.
Yeah.
And I think that changes your perception. If you have to always drive an hour to get someplace, maybe you kind of don't after a while.
Yeah, it's so funny here because I feel like when I lived in Boston, I felt like my family lived so far away, and they're like in Plymouth, like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like a psychological thing. I think that it's not necessarily wrong. It's just like what we're used to.
Yeah. That's funny. And it's also, I know you sort of briefly touched on this, but I know that you studied psychology when you were in school.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like that's informed your comedy at all?
I think so. I think it definitely, like reading a room is basically like tapping into some kind of like, what are people like feeling? What are they wanting? And be able to like, just, I think being empathetic is really important.
Yeah.
The psychology, and I think that, like, just, like, kind of, like, learning and, like, working on empathy is really been helpful to me as a comedian.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, I think, like, we were talking earlier about, like, that shitty dude, like, the kind of guy that, like, is like, and, like, I think a lot of people think comedy has to be at someone or something, like, that you have to be, like, punching something to be doing comedy or making fun of something, and I don't think that that's always what it is. I think sometimes it's just, like, sharing experience with people, or, like, being, like, just, like some things in life are just funny, and there's not really a rhyme to it, but it doesn't have to be, like, because you don't have to, like, call somebody out all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think some people feel that way, and I think that I do feel that way, and I think being, like, more empathetic towards, like, page we're on, the room, has helped with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I feel you hear a lot of people who, I don't know, have, like, some commentary or opinions about comedy. I feel like it's a really popular opinion to say things like a comedian is supposed to, what is that idiom? Like question the sacred cow or whatever the fuck it is, or the sacred lamb or something. Like this idea that you're supposed to mess around with or talk about or question things that nobody else is questioning, or things you're not supposed to or question or whatever. And like, I guess I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that idea. Do you think that's like an important thing to keep in mind, or is it overblown?
I think it's, I just think it's like, there's not one way to do comedy. Like, I think that is important. Like, I don't think it should be too powerful that you can't laugh at it, but also maybe like some people aren't the right person to do that. Mm-hmm. And like, or you just don't have the material. Like, it just because you aren't doing that doesn't mean necessarily that you're not doing comedy. But I think it's important. Like, I think, a lot of like straight dudes will try to do like things to be shocking, like, and they think they're doing that, but not really true. They're just actually reinforcing status quo, but they think they're being like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The guy that's in power, quote unquote, so it doesn't mean as much coming from them as they think it does.
Yeah, it's like the audience for the joke, or the person who would like float with it the most would just be more people that had the same experiences or the same perspective.
Yeah, I think like the like you can't joke about certain things. Like, I think like a random straight dude just making a rape joke, where like the joke is that like a woman was raped, that's pretty unforgivable. That's pretty awful. But then when you hear like a survivor of sexual assault tell a joke about sexual assault, that's like a total, it's like the topic, quote unquote, is the same, but it's a wildly different perspective, and I think that's really powerful. Like, that's really meaningful, and it can be good. Just because it's coming from a good place doesn't always mean that's funny, but it can be. It can be really funny and really.
Yeah. Like, the context and the nuance maybe matters almost just as much as the content.
And sometimes, like, I think that's a big thing with, like, straight white dudes. Like, sometimes you just don't have to say a thing. Like, you don't always have an opinion.
You don't always have to what?
Have an opinion. Like,
right.
It just doesn't always have to be you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is a weird, like, it sounds obvious, but, like, when you do, like, some people need to hear that.
So you said when we were first talking that a lot of your jokes revolve around, like, kind of deconstructing masculinity. Like, what does that look like for you? Like, is that a lot of, like, anecdotes and stuff?
Yeah, like, I just tell, like, jokes and stories where a lot of it, like, about just, like, not being, like, a tough guy and being, like, finding that energy strange, and then, like, these kinds of, like, just being cool with the concept of, like, yeah, like, I don't, like, you don't have to just be this way. Like, it's a weird energy. We've decided it's normal, but maybe it's not. Like, you're just, like, kind of, like, poking it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, like, one of the jokes I do about that, it actually happened on the way to the MFA one time. I got rear-ended. And this is, I mean, sometimes comedians, like, exaggerate their stories. This one was just, like, basically verbatim. And, like, the guy that hit me, like, I was just at a red light, so he just rear-ended me. It's because he was nice, if anything. Like, he was just, like, super high. He got out of the car, and he just goes, "Hey, I hit you, but you know me." I'm like, I don't. So, and then this guy just starts honking at us, this, like, quote-unquote, like, tough guy. It's like we're exchanging contact, and like, clearly there's been a car accident, so he's honking at us, and I'm from Rockland. I do what I'm supposed to do. I flip him off. And he doesn't like that, so he just pulls over.
Uh-oh.
And he's like, "Hey, do you want to flip me off to my face? You know I can kick your ass, right?" And then this really happened just on because I was, like, running late for work. You remember people that probably shouldn't be named, but a certain man would not be thrilled about me being late. So I'm not like I'm not.
I know
tough.
the names you're naming.
I'm not like a tough guy, but I am angry. So he's like, I can kick your ass, right? And I panic and I just yell, "Yeah, I do know that. Most people do that. It's not impressive. I'm weak as shit." And then he he doesn't know how to. He's not prepared for being agreed with angrily. I've taken away his weapon of by just agreeing, but still being annoyed with him.
What did he do? Did he leave at that point?
He goes, "Oh, well, as long as you know." It's like, yeah, that's goofy. Like, and now he is the joke. Like, 'cause he's just like, yeah, okay. You got no plan. You have no follow through.
Oh my
it doesn't
god.
go the way you expect it to go.
So I expected the stoner guy in the beginning of the story to be the punchline.
Yeah, what happened to that guy?
Oh, yeah. So I'm yelling at the tough guy, and I'm like, I'm agreeing. I'm just angry. I was hit by a car. And then he's like, "Oh, well, I didn't know that." He's still angry. And then the guy that hit me just walks over and goes, "Nah, man, it's true. I hit him with my car." So he was just super nice the whole time, and put that right up the insurance document. Like, he probably shouldn't have been driving, but he was at least basically decent.
Oh my god.
He's a nice guy, though,
Just just a pleasant dude.
Did you end up getting to work?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god.
Crazy.
That's ridiculous. Oh man. I feel like the MFA era is so nostalgic for me. Like, just that period of time, so much chaotic shit was happening that was just not even related to that job.
Right? I think that's, yeah. I think that's...
Oh man.
But yeah, I just think things like that of just it did really happen, and I think it's funny, but just the idea of taking what we assume we assume the interaction will go, and then turning it on its head is fun for me.
Yeah.
I think that just, it shows that there is a side door to traditional masculinity.
That's a pretty good way to handle it too. I don't know what I would have said if I were in his shoes.
Right, because
honestly, I'm surprised I didn't cry. I think if I wasn't so determined to get to work on time, I probably wouldn't.
And it's funny too, because a guy like that, what is his end plan to beat a guy up? Can you imagine what mindset you would have to be in to beat somebody up on the side of the road in traffic
At 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah, it's so
what
early.
the fuck are you doing? Can you imagine? That is so antisocial and insane. Why did he even fucking stop? Why was he out of his car?
Yeah, and imagine not being able to handle being flipped off. That's such an affront to your ego as a man. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's it means nothing. It's just 4 fingers down and 1 up.
Right.
Also, he inserted himself into that situation in the first place.
Right. So, yeah.
Wow.
Jeez. Yeah, that sucks, man. Yeah.
This 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this guy feels bad about it.
Yeah, maybe he's listening now to the podcast.
Do you think this is just some fucked up memory that he has? It's just some weird shit that happened to him one time?
The guy just didn't take his meds for 3 months and just was fucking flipping tables at restaurants and yelling at people on the sides of the road.
And he's maybe is it how I solve my problem? I love the idea of there being growth out of it.
Right. Yeah, man. We had one incident, me and Theo, we were just driving. We were somewhere near the Boston Public Library or something.
Oh,
and a guy walked out in front of my car. And I had said to slow to a stop for him to cross. And I think I don't know why I did this, but I just beeped at the guy because he walked out in front of me. which is a pretty aggressive on my part.
Well, it wasn't on a sidewalk or
But
something. He
the
just,
guy
jumped in
just
the street.
stopped, like screamed something unintelligible at me, and then spit the most like rancid, like loogie phlegm spit directly onto like the middle of my windshield.
Oh God!
And it was fucking horrible. It was so. It was in the middle of like the pandemic too, and I was just like, I've been defeated. Like I just drove away without any other. I didn't retaliate.
Well, that's good. I think that there was no way that was gonna go. For you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's radioactive. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So that was a
turned into that guy.
right. Yeah. You just spread the sickness.
The COVID.
Yeah. Fuck that, man. I would have just got COVID or something. Holy fuck, dude.
Oh
That's
man.
so funny.
So, Joe, at any point during the pandemic, did you try to do a Zoom comedy show?
I did several.
How did they go?
Some were good, actually. Most were just like, it was just so hard to tell.
Yeah.
Normally, like, it's such like a stimulus response kind of thing, where you tell a joke, people laugh. But on Zoom, some people are muted, some people have their cameras up. You just like you just don't know how you're doing at any point, and it's really off-putting because, like, I don't know. I like doing this because I like making people laugh. There is a degree of, like, you know, like art, quote unquote, and like I want to be like artist, but like I don't know. It's kind of psychopathic to just not care how people are responding. And just like talk for like 10 minutes without having any feedback. It's really weird.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking like terrible. Like, have you ever listened to anyone's podcast who, like, there's a few people that are like this, but their podcast is them with no co-host, where they just talk, like they just rant basically for like an hour.
I've never listened to anything like that. I don't think I could handle it.
I know. Like, I feel like I've like known about people who have done that kind of thing, and it seems so like difficult and weird.
It seems like you'd just be listening to someone slowly go insane.
Which may have its own appeal, but to advertise it like as like a comedic show is just very like, I don't know.
Seems like it'd be very hard to do.
Real odd.
Yeah, like in some ways, I guess it's like almost comfortable to like have that kind of confidence in yourself, but it's usually, I don't know that it's usually like, it's usually more just like narcissism.
Right, that you're like evolving into like a YouTuber.
Yeah, but you know, some of them make a lot of money, so I don't know.
True.
It's not for me, but I guess I can't say it's not an art form in its own right. It's just something that I happen to like.
Now, in terms of like your comedic like aspirations and like your vision, do you do any kind of internet content, or do you have any different methods of like promoting your work with like social media and stuff?
Yeah, I do. Like, I tweet, and that's really the extent of my, like, I tweet like a dumb joke a day, and I think that I'm probably gonna need to get more involved. It does seem like that is the way for the future, to like just kind of put like, because now like you can just like film a skit on your iPod and put it out of the world. I mean, your iPhone is so like, I think that is the future, and I don't think it's really a bad thing. It's just not what I've normally done, so
Right.
I think it's something I have to learn to probably if I want to keep up.
TikTok specifically must have really changed the comedy scene when it blew up the way that it did last year.
Yeah, there's people now like doing like clubs and bars because of how famous they got on TikTok, which is crazy.
Wait, doing what? You broke up a little bit.
Oh, sorry, they're like doing like clubs and theaters
Oh, wow.
just off their TikToks, and not to throw shade, some of them totally deserve it.
Yeah.
So, like, that's cool. It is at its best, it's a democratizing force. Sometimes people are just a flash in the pan, but that's always been true with like any new medium. And even with like gatekeepers, sometimes it's just like a guy the club likes, but they still suck. So
Yeah.
I think it's cool that there is another avenue for people to like reach people, and some people are very good at it. So more power to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to become like an old man where it's just like just because I don't have TikTok or know how to do it, I don't want to be like, yeah, these kids suck for understanding a thing I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is life?
So, there's a good George Harrison song.
Oh my lord.
My sweet lord. You open the door.
Wait, what?
Oh, I'm just quoting George Harrison.
Oh.
I think he's the most undersung Beatle.
Yeah. What the fuck, man? So wow, New York City.
Yeah, You moved recently.
What the hell are you doing there?
I've been here for now just a week.
Wow, really?
Congrats.
I moved with my girlfriend, who also used to work at the MFA. She got a cool job. And so then I was like, okay, I will follow you. So then I found a job, and now I'm here.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And you're quite possibly at the beginning of who knows what.
Yeah, it's certainly like a bigger comedy scene, and that's going to be like awesome if more opportunities, but then also like hard, and that you have to compete with like way more people that are legitimately good at this.
Have you spent a lot of time in New York before you moved, or are you just kind of getting into the scene right now?
I haven't spent as much time doing comedy here as like some Boston comedians like make a point of going up. When I did my road trip, I was here doing I have friends in the comedy scene here, so that makes it, excuse me, like a nicer to like not be coming in here, very big scene, knowing nobody.
Yeah.
But I definitely, it is a lot of it to me, for sure.
Well, I was gonna ask too, like, do you feel like the vibe is different from Boston, or like, because I've heard Boston is a really close-knit comedy scene for the most part. I don't know if that's true, but I've just heard that anecdotally.
I think Boston's just like relatively smaller.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows everyone. It's not always close-knit. Sometimes that has its drawbacks. But for the most part, like, the people, like, I think, like, you do find your people in Boston very quickly. And when it's, like, nice and you have people that you're, like, it can be really awesome and close-knit like that. I'm finding that New York, I think, I've heard that this is kind of a recent post-pandemic thing, but, like, the scene has been very nice in a way that I guess it hasn't always been.
Well, that's
like,
cool.
People say that, like, pre-pandemic, it was a lot, like, clickier, but now, because I think everyone's kind of starting over, there's a newer venues. There's a lot of new venues, a lot of people actually going to the mic and staying the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people figuring it all out again, like how to do it again. So it's like it's more level than it maybe would have been like even 2 years ago. And I don't like level, and like obviously some people have been doing it and like they're really good, but there is just at least the few mics I've done in my 1 week here, it actually is a lot like nicer than maybe my expectation of New York comedy would have been before getting here.
That's a really interesting side effect I hadn't really thought about before, because there's probably a lot of people who, like, if they started getting into comedy like during the pandemic, it's not like you could really perform and stuff unless it was on Zoom.
Right.
Huh. Wow. So that's kind of cool. It's a good time to jump in then.
Yeah, I feel lucky about that. But yeah, it's been a weird surprise that like people are very nice. and I have more space than I did in Boston. So it's like every stereotype of New York so far is busted.
Wait, really? That's fucking... I want to move to New York. That's cool.
I think it's not so much a testament to how much space I have as how little space I had in Alston.
Fair, yeah. Alston's
It's
pretty...
it's not,
Fucking Alston.
yeah,
Oh, man.
we had a very small studio.
Alston is like that. You either have, like, the smallest apartment ever, or you have the worst roommates ever. There's no in between.
Yeah, that's really spot on.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Fucking assholes.
Everyone in Alston.
Fuck every roommate ever.
Oh.
Anyway. Well, hey, Joe, it's been amazing talking to you.
This has been super fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're coming up on, like, 1:05, so I guess we should probably wrap up soon, but...
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sorry about running to get food.
Oh, no, it's totally fine.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And is there anywhere that the people should come check you out?
I don't have anything quite lined up for live, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's just my name, at Joe Palana. Same with Instagram. And my website is just joepalana.com if you want to read what I've written so far about driving across the country.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll look out for what you got going on.
Yeah, and tell Josephine I said hi. Or I'll tell her.
I'll let her know. I'm sorry. Yeah, she's in Tokyo, right? Or outside Tokyo right now. Otherwise, she would have loved to say hi.
Oh, that's cool.
Badass.
Yeah,
well,
she's
all right.
cool. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Have a great night and a good rest of your week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boston Art Podcast. Good night, everybody.